My wife lied about her debt. Well, I worked overtime to save, so I filed for divorce and took every asset she owned. I'm a 32-year-old guy, and for most of my life, I believed love meant protecting and providing for the people you care about. That's how I was raised, by a single mom who worked 2 jobs and still made it to every parent-teacher meeting with a smile on her face. I promised myself that when I got married, I'd be the one doing the heavy lifting. I didn't need a big house or fancy vacations, just a stable home, a fridge that was always full, and someone who appreciated the kind of man I was trying to be. When I met Laura, I really thought I'd found that person. She was everything I wasn't: polished, well-spoken, college-educated, and driven. She worked part-time at a boutique doing marketing, but she said she didn't care about climbing the corporate ladder. What she wanted, she told me, was peace, loyalty, and a real partnership. I bought into that dream like it was gospel. I started working overtime, sometimes 60, even 70 hours a week, thinking I was laying the bricks for our future. Every time I came home, dead tired, covered in dust and sweat, Laura would kiss me on the cheek and say, "You're too good to me, babe. I don't know how I got so lucky." She told me she hated debt, that it made her sick to owe people. I believed her, so I kept putting money aside, penny by penny, budgeting every meal and expense so that one day we could own a little house just outside the city. She managed the bills and groceries, and I never once questioned her choices. Looking back now, I wish I had, because while I was busy trying to build a future, she was burying us in secrets. It started small, so small that I brushed it off the first few times. A missed payment notice tucked in between the mail, a late fee I couldn't remember us owing, or Laura being weirdly jumpy whenever I walked by her laptop. I'd ask, "Everything okay?" And she'd laugh, shake her head, and say something like, "Oh, just the electric company messing up again." I trusted her. I mean, why wouldn't I? She'd never given me a reason not to. But then came the overdraft alerts. At first, I thought maybe I miscalculated. Maybe a bill hit earlier than expected. I'd log in and see withdrawals for random things: beauty boxes, subscription apps, a boutique charge I couldn't pronounce. "That wasn't me," Laura would say without missing a beat. "Must have been fraud. I'll call the bank tomorrow." I wanted to believe her. I was working so much, I barely had energy to keep up with receipts, let alone play detective. And she always had an answer ready, always just one step ahead of my suspicion. One night, I caught her deleting text messages while sitting on the couch, and when I asked about it, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You really don't trust me anymore, do you?" The guilt hit me like a truck, so I backed off. I told myself stress was making me paranoid, and that couples go through financial hiccups sometimes. Still, something in my gut twisted tighter every time she dodged a question or acted like I was crazy for even asking. I didn't know it yet, but those cracks were growing, and soon they'd split everything wide open. The confession came on a Tuesday night, one of those quiet evenings where nothing feels wrong until it suddenly is. I walked into the living room after a late shift and found Laura sitting on the couch, her eyes red, her hand shaking like she'd been holding something in for way too long. Before I could even ask what happened, she whispered, "I messed up. Please don't be mad." My stomach dropped. Those words never mean anything small. I sat beside her, bracing myself, already hearing worst-case scenarios in the back of my mind. She told me she fell behind on a credit card. "Just one," she insisted, wiping her tears like a scared kid caught cheating on a test. "It's only about $2,000. I swear I wasn't trying to hide it from you." I remember staring at her, trying to process the mix of fear and shame on her face. A part of me felt angry, really angry, but a bigger part felt guilty for even thinking that way. So I took her hand and said, "Okay, we'll fix it, together." She melted into me like she'd been waiting for those words all day. And for a moment, it felt like we were reconnecting, like this was just one of those bumps couples talk about years later with a laugh. I pulled from our savings and paid off the card the next morning. Laura hugged me like I'd saved her life and promised she'd be more open about money moving forward. I actually believed her. She acted sweeter than she had in months, packing my lunches, texting me good luck at work, even suggesting we start house hunting again. But now I know what that was. A calm before the storm so big it would swallow the truth whole. 2 weeks later, we had a meeting with a mortgage broker, something Laura had insisted on after her wake-up call. She'd been upbeat the whole morning, even dressed up like it was a date. I remember thinking how proud I was to be finally moving towards something permanent. But that feeling shattered the second the broker looked at me and said, "I'm sorry, there seems to be an issue with your wife's credit." I thought, It was a mistake. A typo. Maybe her identity had been stolen. I turned to Laura, waiting for her to say something, to explain. But she just froze. Completely still, lips pressed tight, like she knew this moment was coming. The broker kept talking. Her credit score is 512. There's roughly $60,000 in revolving debt, multiple credit cards, a personal loan, and a few collection notices. I couldn't breathe. My ears rang, and I felt heat rush through my face. That can't be right, I finally said, trying to smile, like the world wasn't tilting under me. But Laura just looked at her hands and whispered, I was going to tell you, I just didn't know how. $60,000. While I was eating leftovers and working double shifts, she was drowning us and hiding it like a second life. My hand shook on the steering wheel the whole drive home. She cried the entire time, saying things like, I thought I could fix it before you found out, and you wouldn't understand the pressure I'm under. But I wasn't angry yet, not fully. I was stunned, like watching the first domino fall in a chain you didn't even know was set up. And deep down, I think I knew. This wasn't just one secret. It was the beginning of a truth I was never supposed to see. After the mortgage meeting, everything changed, but not in the way I thought it would. I expected remorse, reflection, maybe even a plan to fix things. Instead, Laura flipped the narrative so fast it gave me whiplash. You're treating me like a criminal, she said one night when I tried to talk about the debt. You've always been obsessed with control. You just want to micromanage everything I do. I was stunned. She took my concern and twisted it into an accusation. I remember standing in the kitchen, arms crossed, voice calm, saying, I just want to understand what happened. Her eyes filled with tears, but they didn't feel real this time. You're making me feel unsafe in my own home, she whispered, then stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door. From that point on, I was the villain in every conversation. If I asked about her spending, I was tracking her like a prisoner. If I brought up budgeting, she accused me of emotional manipulation. I started second-guessing myself, wondering if I was being too harsh, too cold. She even told her sister that I'd become controlling since she opened up about the debt. The worst part? Her friends started treating me differently too, like they'd been told a version of me that didn't exist. Meanwhile, her behavior spiraled. More packages showed up at the door. She booked a spa weekend with her friend and told me it was non-negotiable for her mental health. I sat alone that Saturday night, staring at the bank app on my phone as another $700 disappeared. And still, I stayed quiet. Because every time I spoke up, I lost more ground. But deep inside, something was shifting. The man who believed love meant protecting her was starting to realize he needed to protect himself. I hit rock bottom on a Thursday night, unexpected, brutal, and so final that I still remember every second of it. I'd picked up an extra shift because bills were getting tighter, and I didn't want to dip into what little savings we had left. I came home around 11 p.m., bone tired, smelling like grease and engine oil, expecting silence and maybe leftovers. But when I opened the door, the music hit me first, loud, bass heavy, and coming from the living room. There were people in my house. 3 women I didn't recognize, half drunk, laughing, as Laura posed for selfies in the kitchen. She didn't notice me at first. She was too busy pouring wine and showing off her new dress, the one I hadn't seen before but clearly paid for. When she finally saw me, she blinked and said, Oh, you're home early. No apology, no embarrassment, just annoyance, like I'd ruined the fun. I didn't speak. I just walked to the bedroom, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the bed, trying not to explode. My hand shook as I opened the banking app. That day alone, she'd spent $1,200. Clothing, liquor, some online boutique, and 2 charges I couldn't even identify. Worse, a $15,000 withdrawal from our joint savings account had gone through just days earlier. Just covering minimum payments, she'd said. Minimum payments for debt she swore was under control. I don't know how long I sat there. An hour maybe. 2. The voices outside blurred into noise as I stared at the ceiling in disbelief. This was the moment everything broke. Not just my trust, not just our marriage, but the illusion I'd built around who she was and who I was becoming because of it. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee, hummed in the kitchen, and kissed me on the cheek like we were still in some 1950s sitcom. I watched her move around the house, laughing at something on her phone, and it hit me. She wasn't hiding the chaos anymore. She was comfortable in it. She didn't think she'd ever face consequences. That's when I realized this wasn't just someone with bad spending habits. This was someone who saw me as a safety net, not a partner, a walking paycheck, a man who would keep working himself into the ground while she lived like a queen built on lies. I started documenting everything, every charge, every transfer, every time she gaslighted me or blamed me for her mess. I dug into old emails, loan statements, even her messages with friends when I could find them. The deeper I went, the more it all made sense. She'd never planned to come clean. I stopped talking to her unless necessary. I stopped arguing, stopped asking, stopped hoping she'd wake up and fix things. Instead, I opened a separate bank account in my name only and rerouted my direct deposit there. I made an appointment with the divorce lawyer, paid for in cash. The lawyer didn't sugarcoat it. "She's draining you," she said, "and she's counting on the fact that you're too loyal to stop her." For the first time in months, I felt something other than shame or confusion. I felt clarity and anger and focus. I wasn't going to fight her in arguments anymore. I was going to fight her with facts, silence, and a plan. I stopped sleeping properly, not out of stress, but strategy. Every night after Laura passed out in bed, I'd sit at the kitchen table with my laptop and a folder of printouts, credit card statements, screenshots of transactions, copies of her loan applications she left open on the desktop more than once. I pieced together her financial footprint like a detective at a crime scene. She owed money to 6 credit card companies, had refinanced a personal loan twice, and even had a buy now, pay later account I didn't know existed. It wasn't $60K in debt. It was closer to 85. I made sure everything I collected had timestamps, dates, and clear proof she was using joint funds without consent. My lawyer helped me file a formal request to freeze the joint account, but we timed it to activate after I was out of the house. Because if she found out too early, she'd either drain the rest or twist it into another abuse claim. So I made a plan to leave, quietly, surgically, without a word of warning. I rented a small one-bedroom apartment under my name, stocked it with essentials, and kept the key taped under the toolbox in my trunk. The night before I left, I made dinner like normal. Laura scrolled on her phone, laughing at something on TikTok, completely unaware of what was coming. I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at the ceiling, replaying every insult she threw when I dared to ask about money. Every time she said I was too sensitive, too serious, too much. At 5 a.m., I packed my bags and walked out the door without looking back. On the kitchen counter, I left a single envelope with her name on it. Inside were divorce papers, a financial audit, and a note that simply said, "You lied. I'm done." I expected rage. What I didn't expect was the performance of a lifetime. Laura showed up to the preliminary hearing in a beige blouse and fake tears, her voice cracking as she told the judge, I abandoned her without warning. She claimed she was blindsided by the divorce and that I'd been emotionally distant and controlling for years. She even had a friend write a statement saying I forbade Laura from working full-time, when the truth was, she'd never wanted to. I sat there in silence, fists clenched, letting her bury herself deeper with every lie. Then it was my turn. My lawyer calmly opened the folder we'd been building for over a month. Printouts of every shared account withdrawal, credit card application, and loan she'd hidden. Screenshots of her online shopping sprees during months I was working double overtime. Text messages where she joked about letting him think we're house hunting. A voice recording from my phone, Laura laughing with her friends about having a husband who thinks being broke is romantic. The judge's face changed halfway through. His tone shifted from neutral to cold. He asked Laura directly, "Did you ever disclose these debts to your husband before or during the marriage?" She tried to cry again, but it didn't work this time. The judge called her behavior financial deception, bordering on fraud. Her lawyer stopped objecting. The courtroom was quiet. When the ruling came down, I was granted the majority of the marital assets, full rights to our apartment, and protected from having to pay any of her debt. She was held responsible for everything in her name, and she'd lost the right to touch mine. Laura sat there frozen, staring at the table like it might open up and swallow her whole. And for once, she had nothing left to say. I wish I could say she took the court ruling with dignity, but that would be giving her too much credit. The day after the judgment, Laura tried calling me 22 times. When I didn't answer, she switched to texting. Long, spiraling paragraphs about how the system always sides with men, how I humiliated her, how I destroyed everything for no reason. Not once did she apologize. Not once did she say, I lied. Just deflection, pity, and threats dressed up as sadness. But the real consequences came fast. She was ordered to repay what she took from our joint savings within 60 days. or face garnishment. The car, technically under my name and paid with my income, was returned to me. The apartment? Mine. She had to move out within 3 weeks. I later heard she was crashing on her sister's couch, begging relatives for help. Her social circle didn't stick around either. Once the truth about the debt and deception came out, screenshots and receipts included, people who used to admire her distanced themselves fast. A mutual friend sent me a screenshot of a group chat where Laura tried spinning the narrative again, and no one replied. She went from brunch invites and Instagram likes to ghost town silence. The image she worked so hard to maintain cracked like cheap glass. She tried reaching out one last time. A simple message. I miss us. I didn't respond. I blocked her number, email, and every social platform. That part of my life was over, and no amount of crocodile tears would change that. Because the truth is, she never missed us. She missed the free ride, and I'd finally made sure it was over. It's strange how quiet life becomes after chaos ends. For the first time in years, I woke up without that sick knot in my stomach, without checking the bank app before brushing my teeth. The silence of my apartment, once shared, now mine alone, felt like oxygen. I didn't realize how much of myself I had buried under her lies until the noise was gone. It was like stepping out of a fog and realizing I'd been driving with broken headlights for miles. I started picking up pieces of the man I used to be. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years, friends she subtly pushed away because they didn't get our dynamic. I started working regular hours again, eating real meals, sleeping without anxiety, curling in my chest like a fist. I enrolled in a local financial literacy group, not because I didn't know money, but because I wanted to protect myself better next time. I told my story there for the first time, and 3 other people came up afterward and said, that happened to me too. That moment meant more than I can explain. And emotionally, I was healing, slowly, but fully. I no longer flinched at words like partnership or love. I started journaling again, something I hadn't done since college, and filled page after page with truths I had ignored for far too long. I realized I wasn't ashamed anymore. I was proud that I didn't let her destroy me. She took a lot from me, time, trust, money. But what she couldn't take, what she never truly had, was my integrity. I'm writing this now from a small apartment that smells like coffee and fresh paint. My place, fully paid off, fully mine. There are no secrets in these walls, no unpaid debts hiding in drawers, no pit in my stomach when the mail arrives. Just peace. The kind of peace I didn't realize I'd forgotten how to feel. I kept my promise to myself. No more saving people who don't want to be saved. These days, I live simply. I cook my own meals, I go for early morning walks before work, and I read. Something I hadn't done since Laura called it a waste of time. I'm even seeing someone new. Nothing serious, nothing rushed. Just honest conversations, shared laughs, and no hidden agendas. For the first time in years, I don't feel like I'm auditioning for someone else's version of love. Laura reached out again recently. A message through a burner Instagram account. Just a wave emoji and, I hope you're okay. I didn't reply, not because I'm bitter, but because I've outgrown the part of me that needed closure from someone who never respected me. She didn't just lie about her debt, she lied about who she was. And I let her, because I thought love meant giving everything, even when it hurt. But I know better now. Love isn't sacrifice without reciprocity. It's truth. It's peace. It's being able to breathe without wondering if someone's stealing the air behind your back. I didn't get revenge in fire and fury. I got it in silence, in boundaries, in the freedom she never thought I'd find. And that's the thing about people who build lives on lies. They never expect the quiet ones to walk away and never come back.